In example 3, you were given these lists of linear functions, and they're all essentially in slope-intercept form, with the exception that you have your function notation over here instead of a y value, and you were asked to match these equations with their appropriate graphs. In order to aid you with that, going through these graphs, what you wanted to do in each one of these cases, and since these are all showing y-intercepts that you should be able to identify fairly clearly, nothing like ambiguous with like decimals or fractions involved, and you have slopes that you should be able to determine from the graphs as well, that you wanted to get the slopes and y-intercepts for each one of these. So that's what I did first here. So going through each one of these graphs, I went through and determined what the y-intercept was, and then basically all I did, like here, I said here, well, the y-intercept is 5, you can see that clearly, and I just followed along until I got to another point where I could clearly see that the line is crossing through an easily determined point, which is usually where you have grid lines that intersect each other. So I know that 3, 4 is another point, and so moving from 0, 5 to 3, 4, it's moving down 1, right 3. So as a result, I know I have a slope of negative 1/3, and I did a similar process for the rest of these. I'm not going to spend time going through that. Again, being able to read graphs and figure out slopes is something that is covered in high school algebra and is something that is considered to be a prerequisite for this course, so I'm not going to spend great deals of time on it in this video. So now that you have these, knowing the slope and the b value lets you write the equation. So as I look at this first one, having m is negative 1/3 and b equals 5, I want to see which equation is showing that. And it's this one right here. Negative 1/3 is the slope. That's the coefficient on my variable term, and a positive 5, so this is A. Here the slope is 5. The y-intercept is 3, so it's y equals 5x plus 3 or 3 plus 5x. Here's 5x plus 3, that's B. The slope is negative 3, the y-intercept is negative 5, so I'm looking for y equals negative 3x minus 5 or equivalent. I see the negative 3x, I see the minus 5, so this would be C. This would be y equals 3x plus 5, or 5 plus 3x. That goes along with f of x here, so this is D. The slope is 1/3, the y-intercept is 5, so this should be y equals 1/3 x plus 5, or equivalent. I see the 1/3 x plus 5, it doesn't matter which order it's added in, so this would be E. This would be y equals negative 3x plus 5, and I do see that right here, so that's F. This would be y equals negative 5x plus 3. I'm not seeing negative 5x plus 3, but 3 minus 5x is the same thing as that, so this would be graph G. And by process of elimination, but you can see the slope negative 1/3, y-intercept negative 5, this is graph H. For the next problem, you were given this equation in slope-intercept form, at least the book's version of it, where they have b plus mx. So the b value is 8, the slope is negative 2/3. You always start with the b value when you graph. So this says that you have a y-intercept at 8, which means 8 up from the origin, or at coordinate 0, 8. So you would have your first point right here. And then you have a slope of negative 2/3. Now, depending on how you interpret it, usually most people put the negative with the top number, so that means you go down 2, and that's positive 3, that'd be right 1. It's not negative 2 and negative 3. They're not both negative. They're both negative. This would be positive. So remember your division rules. So down 2, right 3. So down 2, right 3, down 2, right 3. You keep repeating that as many times as needed. Oftentimes I do repeat it numerous times. I don't feel like taking out a straight edge to draw this myself, and I try to draw it as straight as I can, so having more dots definitely does that. You could also go in the opposite direction once you see what the pattern is, but the line would do this. As far as graphing it in Top Hat, just to get you used to graphing things on electronic versions of these things, if you're graphing it, you have the line tool, And again, I mean, once you know what the slope and the y-intercept are, just have to pick 2 points to make the line. So here, you have your 0, 8 point, and you go down to right 3. That's all that's needed to graph the line. So that would be what you would submit. Of course, that's correct. So that's the end of this problem, and that is the end of this video. If you have any questions, please make sure to bring them up during class.